Hello everyone, and welcome back to Strange Wonders. As always, I'm your host, Mr.G. We got a doozy of a video today. I decided to take out all the Beetles in this series in one go, since, let's be real, most of these are kind of that's it animals. Basically, they're animals that you describe the description of, and then that's it. We have a lot of things to look at today. I'm not even bothering with the quick rundown section. Let's just get into this. We're doing every single Beetle in Strange Wonders. Let's go. First up, we got the Giraffe Weevil, so named because males have long necks. That's about it. Except for the fact that these animals are incredibly anachronistic. What do I mean by that? Well, according to almost every single source I saw of these guys, they apparently weren't discovered until 2008. What's the problem there? The card for it came out in 2004. So what is going on here? And according to Google Trends, apparently there were searches for them in 2004, which was 4 years before they were apparently discovered. So, I don't know what's going on here. Could somebody please help me out? What is going on here? Next, stag beetles. Probably the most iconic beetles behind ladybugs and fireflies, but we're getting to that soon. Anyway, stag beetles have pinchers that males use to fight each other with during mating season. That's it. Next up, fireflies, which actually do have plenty to say about. Despite their name, fireflies are actually beetles, but you probably could have guessed that since I'm talking about them here. Anyway, fireflies are pretty iconic for the fact that they emit a glowing bioluminescent light. Why do fireflies glow exactly? Well, it depends on the life cycle stage they're at. You see, young fireflies glow to warn predators that they could be toxic if eaten, since in the animal kingdom, bright colors equal poison. However, adult fireflies actually grow to find mates, since female fireflies, and by the way, in some species of fireflies, females don't even have wings. They're called glowworms. Anyway, female fireflies actually pick mates based on whoever has the brightest light. So yeah, that's pretty neat. Next up, we got the Goliath beetle. They're big. That's it. Next, the Hercules beetle, so named because it's strong. It also has a weird head. That's it. Next up, the Bombardier beetle, or Bombardier beetle. Honestly, I've never been sure how to pronounce it. These guys are pretty cool because, you see, they have a defense mechanism that involves spraying an incredibly hot liquid all over their predators, causing severe irritation to them. It's, really cool, but unfortunately, they spray hot liquid. That's it. Next up, we got the Harlequin beetle. Males have long legs. That's it. Next up, we got fog beetles. These beetles live in some of the driest places on the planet. So, in order to get water, they've developed an interesting strategy. You see, they live in areas that, despite being dry, are actually coastal countries. So, as such, there's a lot of fog, and during the fog, these beetles will stick their head in the ground and stick their thoraxes in the air, and water droplets will accumulate onto them, which they will pluck off themselves and drink. So yeah, they're beetles that drink fog water. Next up, we got the elephant beetle. It has a weird nose that looks like an elephant. That's it. Next up, we got one of the most famous beetles, the dung beetle. Yeah. As you can imagine from their name, dung beetles eat poop. They roll up piles of poop into balls, and they either eat it or lay their young in it so they have something to eat. Yeah. Pretty gross, but they do have a pretty important role in the ecosystem, since without them, a lot of poop would just pile up, especially since they mostly live in Africa, where there's a lot of big game animals, so there's a lot of poop that needs to be cleaned up. Okay, I'm done talking about poop. Let's move on. Next, we got the longhorn beetle. It's basically a bootleg stag beetle. Moving on. Next up, the sexton beetle. Now, these beetles are pretty cool because they're carrion eaters, but obviously, because a beetle wouldn't be able to keep around a corpse for too long without it being taken away, these guys have developed a strategy where they will actually dig a hole around their prey and then bury it, thus creating a tunnel system that only they can enter so they can have leftovers. Yeah, pretty cool. Finally, click beetles. They're beetles that when on their back will make a clicking noise, then flip into the air. The end. I know I kind of breezed through that, but quite honestly, a lot of these beetles can be summed up in like a single sentence. So yeah, let's just move on to the cards. We got a lot of them, and quite frankly, some of them have interesting problems. Now, the draft beetle card, yeah, it's fine, besides the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, since this card was made in 2004, but allegedly the draft beetle wasn't discovered until 2008, I don't know what to say here. I mean, 2008 can't be the year they were first photographed either, because look, there's a picture of one on the back. I know I should probably stop obsessing over this, but it still bothers me. Or, I guess you could say, it bugs me? The stag beetle card is interesting. Stag beetles are an entire group of beetles, but it lists a single species, which is a European species, a stag beetle. I wonder why they did this, since for most other animals whose title is shared across many things, they just list the family or the genus that it belongs to, but this is weird. I don't know if I should deduct points for that, since the species they're mentioning is a stag beetle, but you know what, I'm deducting points for being too specific. Since stag beetles, they kind of live all over, not just Europe, and it's kind of weird they pretend there's only one species of them. So this one gets a 9 out of 10. Next up, glowworms. Yes, really. Female fireflies have their own card. If you're wondering, there actually is a male firefly card. So yeah, this just boggles my mind. Why would they do this? They didn't do this for any other animal. It's not like lions and lionesses have different cards. So why'd they do it here? It just really confuses me on so many levels as to why they just completely split up these two. So, for the fact that there was an unnecessary split, I think I'm deducting 5 points here. So yeah, these two, because of them making a glowworm its own card, I give it a 5 out of 10. Goliath beetle's fine. Hercules is fine. Bombardier is fine. Still don't know if it's Bombardier or Bombardier. Someone can correct me in the comments, I'm sure. Harlequin's fine. Fog beetles, fine. Elephants, fine. Dung beetles are fine. Okay, finally back to something interesting. For some reason they call the longhorn beetle the Sawyer beetle, which is the name given to another beetle that isn't a longhorn beetle. So yeah, deducting points for the wrong name. This one is now a 7 out of 10. Sexton beetle's fine. And click beetles are fine. Alright, time for relationship with humans. Fireflies are a pretty common thing to witness at night. People like catching fireflies. I've never lived in an area with fireflies, so sadly I've never gotten to experience them. I'm still kind of bitter about that. In some countries, beetles are semi-popular pets, so there's that. To my knowledge, none of these beetles are pests, so there's also that. In ancient Egypt, scarabs, which is the family that dung beetles belong to, were very sacred animals. And, oh yeah, I guess I should probably talk about something. Bombardier, whatever they are, beetles, they're unfortunately very, very popular with certain groups. And by certain groups, I mean the same group I talked about in my Living Dinosaur video. You see, these beetles are often used as an example of what these people like to call irreducible complexity, which is basically something where they go, well, this thing is way too complex to have evolved step by step, because apparently evolution works like a puzzle piece now, and it's just about adding new parts every single time instead of just adapting new parts or old parts becoming new. No, evolution is definitely about adding new parts to an organism. Eyeballs are another thing used as evidence against evolution because they're allegedly too complex to have evolved. Let's just completely ignore the fact that we actually have a pretty good idea of eyeball evolution for a second, and let's just focus on bombardiers again. The main argument is that bombardiers could not have evolved one of their chemicals about the other, because then they would have exploded or something like that. But the thing is, we actually do have a decently good idea about how these guys could have evolved. I'm not going to go into it here since there's a lot of other sources that talked about it better. And quite frankly, I do not feel like debating with these guys again, because every single time I do, I feel like my brain is about to explode due to the sheer stupidity. Also, sometimes bombardier beetles are used in order to promote the idea of dragons. Yes, really, because beetles squirting hot liquid equal fire-breathing lizard that flies. I feel so bad for those beetles. They're super cool, but they're used to promote so much stupidity. Okay, I've had enough. This video's long enough. I never thought I'd get a video this long talking about beetles. But that's all for this episode of Strange Wonders. Next time we're doing another collage because there's another series of animals that are basically that's it animals. Yay! Bye! Ow! 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 Eric, what happened to you? I'm getting attacked from all over because apparently the other bugs don't like what I did to the bees. So now they're revolting against me. This is just great. I don't know what I did wrong. I thought it was funny. But I guess some insects just can't take a joke. Also, I think I just got bitten by a black widow and I need to go to the hospital like now. So, yeah.